Welcome, everyone, to another great edition of the Cocktails with Cavs show, episode 55. Wow, we are having a fun and fantastic season 2 with more incredible interviews to come for you. So please like, follow, and share the shows so more people can get to know these incredible authors, entertainers, and artists. Oh, as always, our tonight's show is brought to you by our great friends at Run Amok Books. And you'll know them from the Windy City of Chicago. They're an amazing publishing outfit that's not afraid to take chances with new talented voices. Heck, even controversial works. They're fully supportive of the creators they partner with. And by all means, check them out at their link in the show description and the comment sections of the show on X. Well, all right. Tonight, we have an incredible guest coming to us from Los Angeles. She's been heralded as the queen of grit lit and has even been described as the Quintin Tarantino of Southern pulp fiction. Tonight, we're going to talk about her work, including her latest, much talked about novel, Grit Black Blood. Please help me welcome to the stage one of crime fiction's most authentic voices, Ashley Erwin. Oh, Ashley, I am so glad you could make it as a guest on Cocktails with Cav. Been excited to have you. I know we just recently had you as part of a great anthology panel, but you're coming to us from Los Angeles. I'm sure it's gorgeous out there. How you doing?
I'm doing so good, friend. Thank you so much for having me. I'm tickled pink to be here and get the opportunity to speak with you and visit and talk about some good grit lit coming out on the pipeline.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, and I know, I tell you what, as part of your work, I get all excited about some of your new stuff and some of the ways you reach out to the audience as well. And, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But, yeah, by all means, we love to have the audience get to know the creator. And, I'm a strong believer in building that relationship so readers can get to know the creators. And so by all means, please tell us about yourself, how you got into writing, and what you like to do, your childhood trauma, whatever you have.
Yeah. Let me just sit down on the couch really quick. We'll get So I'm nobody from nowhere, which basically means I can be anybody anywhere. I was reared in a small town north of Atlanta called Gainesville, Georgia, which is the poultry capital of the world. Don't be jealous. So it either smelled like chicken shit or cow shit, pardon my French. So I didn't get into except for trouble out there. So I passed my time as a rambunctious little youth playing sports and hanging out with folks that I probably shouldn't be around tow truck tie-ups in a field with a cooler full of Frosties and a lot of fun stories by very passionate orators. And then I did a little bit of schooling in South Carolina, and I moved to Los Angeles about 12 years ago. But the storytelling aspect of it comes from my dad's side of the family. Certainly, they have always been very passionate storytellers and borrowed from the oral tradition of the biggest, most rambunctious yarn that can happen near a fire gets the largest pull out of the moonshine jug, if you will. And so my people have been in the state of Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky specifically, about 16 years before it was commissioned a state in 1792. So lots of personalities, and I tell stories like my father told stories, which is in a very thick accent, and you can kind of start to see that in the phonetic way that I write things. And I just started honing in on the craft, and quite frankly, as long as I leave the barn door open for these voices to start to get crack-a-lacking in the back of my head, they seem to mellifluously form into a character, and it tends to be that the subject material that I'm drawn to is violent. I kind of encapsulate it as I write bombastic fiction with a body count. So someone has coined some very nice things about me, calling me the Queen of Gritlit and things of that nature. But I like the underbelly of society. I like to see what they're going to do, why they're going to do. More interested in the decisions that led them there, as opposed to the consequences that take them out the other side. So it tends to be a little bit thick, Rick, with some complexities, if you will.
Yeah, and I tell you, that's and I'm a huge fan of that kind of dark character development, digging in, and part of the allure of your work for me, obviously. And and of course I have a serious question about your upbringing is, do you have any more aid contacts? We all let me know if they have a sponsor, but no, in all seriousness though, that influence, those orator tales, and the New Orleans area is kind of well known for that too, as we were coming up and growing up. But it's certainly, how do you feel that did that push you towards the genre you write in? Because obviously it's a big influence, and you could tell in your writing style, like you said.
Yeah, I would certainly say so. I mean, I think that I have been blessed to have individuals in my family that some of the characters have been based upon in my work, as well as working in the whiskey industry. I'm kind of immersed in the Southern realm of how people maneuver and how they communicate, and certainly very well versed in being an outsider, which I think is a common thematic for Southerners in literature. And sounding the way that I sound and living in Los Angeles, it's something that's apparent every day. But having that influence of the family has certainly directed me towards a very particular scope. I released a book about, 12 years ago, and it was a Western samurai dystopia, and it was all about women, and it dropped you in the middle of this war, and it was kind of this archaic battlefield in this nowhere land. And so then when I decided to embark upon Grit Black Blood, which is my latest novel to be released, it was all about men. And so I was very immersed in this kind of mimetic crisis and violence, and how it has permutations throughout. And it's not lost on me that the rearing of my family, as I said, Eastern Kentucky. So my grandfather was the president of the coal miners union, and so there were a lot of realistic historical artifacts that were present within the lineage of this oral storytelling tree of my family, about there being quite a mini run-in with the law and the coal company and whatnot. And so that gave birth to wanting further exploration within the subject material. Absolutely.
And I think that you mentioned it a little bit, being in Los Angeles now, and being drawn out there. And we talk a lot when I talk with indie authors, especially, it's the craft and the market and the industry itself is all evolving.
Yes.
Just so rapidly in a direction that I think everyone's ship's adrift, so to speak, trying to navigate this new world that's going on. Do you find that and I know you do a lot of incredible noir at the bars. I love those, huge fan of those, and so talk about that, what you're doing now. I mean, you're out in a big, huge hub like Los Angeles, obviously, but what are you doing now, just to give other indie authors the perspective of, how the market's going, or what you do to draw audience and things of that nature?
Well, I mean, I think that probably if I had to put a touchstone on my audience, it's a little He-Man-y, which is great because there's I'm quite a bubbly personality, and yet the things that I write are damnable, to say the least. But I mean, I just write things that I think are dope, and if people want to get on that bandwagon, that's great. I certainly am very effective in reading out loud. As I mentioned before, I read in the accent of my father, which is much thicker than this one that is speaking to you. And I think that if there's
surely
any
you'll
way
give us
that,
a hint.
Well,
Surely you'll give us a hint of the accent.
You know, it's like things like when, as opposed to saying like fire, you'd say like fire.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
So I'm working on a longer form right now that I'm keeping a little bit tight-lipped on because it's outside of the genre that I have written in traditionally. But I did just finish writing a commissioned fighting piece for an anthology, which I'm excited about. It's going to be recorded live as well, and it was kind of contributions about all of these different MMA fighting styles, which really push me. So anything that is a challenge I'm interested in. And in regards to being in Los Angeles proper, there is such a very great community of writers out here. There's a gentleman named Eric Beatner who runs Noir at the Bar, who is the champion of every writer out there and does such a great job in fostering community. I don't get to his Noir at the Bars as often as I would like to, but he gets some heavy hitters that come through there, certainly. And I think that I'm able to have further exploration within the creative craft due to my day job. So I'm in the whiskey industry. I am a storyteller for a whiskey company, and so speaking in front of a crowds and getting individuals to have buy-in within that and being very present and leaving a lasting impression with them and just being an overall liaison to Liquid Lace is, you know, there's companionship within all realms here. I got the gift of the gab, friend, you know, just keep my saying is what I'm saying.
Well, you know, as the host of Cocktails with Cav, I can't tell you enough how much I love, and for those in the audience who aren't familiar with Noir at the Bar, it started in, I believe, Philly, maybe somewhere around 08, you know, and it's just in sort of that author meet and greet where the author gets to read a passage from their book and socialize with readers in a great setting that I love so much.
Fantastic. You know? It's punk rock for sure. I mean, you know, people really push themselves. And the closest thing that I can think that's a comparison is the Moth series, but that's nonfiction and it's a little bit more theatrical. But there's something to be said about being completely and utterly immersed in the room and listening to folks read. It's primordial, right? It taps into prior to the written language, because we've been talking and making noises at each other for quite some time, and so there's a comforting familiarity with it.
Yeah, and I think it really resonates, you know, just at least in my experience with the readership, and you know, a lot better than a stuffy, chilled, you know, institutionally white author meet and greet at some bookstore sometimes, you know. So yeah, just a huge fan. So out in the audience, if you get a chance to check one out or start one in your area, by all means look it up. I think it's noiratthebar.com, or you know, you can schedule things around the country. But I think you said the magic word a little bit earlier, though, talking about your work, Ashley, and that's, you know, you write what you think is dope, you know. Yeah. And I find that might be the key for some authors. Write what you love, you know, and the rest follows, right? You know. So, well, I'll tell you what, you have me excited about your new work, Grit Black Blood. We're going to have to talk about it, but I have to refill my cocktail now. You got me all excited. So when we get back, let's talk about your latest Grit Black Blood, and you could tell us all about it.
Sure.
Anybody have any idea what happened to that last video upload? Somebody's getting fired. Don't look at me. I just drink cocktails and have fun talking to guests. Go check with the producer. I'm too busy scheduling guests and prepping for the show. Go check with the video producer. I don't know, man. I really don't know. Oh, Ashley, thanks so much for hanging with me. I tell you what, you can make a person parched getting all excited talking about your work. That's for sure. But when we left for break, I'm telling you, we need to talk about your latest Grit Black Blood, a novel. And I'm obviously a huge fan, but I could spew ad nauseum my thoughts, but I want the audience to hear it from you. So by all means, please tell us about it. Tell us the impetus for the novel and
Sure.
Get us into it.
Sure. Well, so the progeny for Grit Black Blood comes from a particular place in time in history. It started with the 1930s in eastern Kentucky, and it was based upon a historical event called Bloody Harlan. And Harlan is a place in the hollers. And for about 10 years, they participated in guerrilla warfare between the coal miners and the coal company. And it was Molotov cocktails. And the National Guard got called in multiple times. And basically, there was a lot of corruption that was happening right there, because during that point in time, the coal company would own the entirety of the kind of the camp there. So they would own the houses. They would give you particular money that was only transferable in the coal company stores, and it was called scrip. So they owned these individuals who worked there kind of in this servitude to a certain degree, and it was very impoverished, and there were a lot of promises that were made. And as you can imagine, going down into a coal mine in the early 1900s was certainly dangerous, and it sparked an intrigue for me, not only with the familial ties that I had mentioned previously, but the violence that took place. And it was this very solitary individualism where folks were standing up for the cause because of all of the dangers that were surrounding it. And then what happened is there was this progression of these battles throughout the country around coal camps. There was the Battle of Matewan, which happened in West Virginia, and there were some battles in Colorado, because you had this amalgamation of individuals that were coming from all over the world to work and live in these coal camps. So you had this melting pot of cultures and personalities. And in the 1960s, there was this movement towards a unified coalition. So you had unions that came together. And I wanted to start the story with a foundational death, obviously, because don't all great stories happen when there's a foundational murder.
Yeah.
And so the book opens in the 1990s with two brothers. And one is tasked with finding his father, who is estranged, and all of the perils of going back into the past, of which he is fleeing. And so as the novel moves, it transitions from these three different timelines, the 1990s to the 1960s to the 1930s. And it goes along this very taut thread of a thing begets a thing begets a thing. So you had this immense violence that was happening by individuals in the 1930s that transitioned to a coalition and a unified group of individuals that were trying to affect change, to now this kind of lost generation in the 1990s of these gentlemen who didn't really know what they could do, because they didn't have a war to fight against, and they didn't have a cause to go and kind of give them a sense of meaning. So they were meaningless wanderers. And I found that it was full of very rich contextualized characters, and the spawning of it started out of a short story that I wrote for Shotgun Honey in 2010, I want to say, about a gentleman named Willard Tell. And it was a flash fiction piece, and Willard Tell just lived in my brain for quite some time. And then flash forward to 2022 when this book was released, Willard Tell is a core component that's present within it. And it's a thick ass revival full of good old bad uns, basically, and a single one of them good in it.
Right. And it's I tell you, I was intrigued by the work. I was intrigued by the cover art. Obviously, it's it speaks dark and gritty, and it's just just a phenomenal work. And so, do you find what's your reception like? I'm sure you brought it out to noir at the bar and things like that.
Yeah,
tell us how that goes. The audience, are they equally as enthralled as me?
I think that they are. I mean, I think that the things that I write are not necessarily reflective of how I am present within the world. As I mentioned, I'm a pretty bubbly, kind personality, and yet I start saying these things, and it's just god awful, quite frankly. And so I think there's a little bit of like shock and awe with the cognitive dissonance that happens. But once people start to parlay with the work, the reception has been good. I mean, if people like violence, it's present. If people like grit, it's there. And it was a hoot and a handy to write, and it's wonderful to find out how people vibe to it. It's a very flourishing, dynamic, imagery-based kind of that's what I've been told the writing feels and sounds like. It's good to chew on.
Yeah, it's definitely got that rhythm that it's it puts you on edge, just like the story. So it's great piece of work. And what other projects do you have going on right now? I know you kind of you're very prolific, as far as some of the stuff you do. No, honestly, like I said, even that anthology that we were just lucky enough to talk about last week, so.
So as I mentioned, I have a short story, a fighting short story that should be coming out relatively soon. I just had a short story released in Shotgun Honey called Barbara, which was this sci-fi fun exploration, which came to me with this line of, in the future, you'll be able to switch bodies. And I just thought that was such a cool launching pad. I did an audiobook version of me reading Grip Black Blood that's available. And so that was quite a big endeavor.
Right.
That is a companion piece for the novel. There it is. And I'm working on something outside of the genre, which, forgive me, I don't mean to be tight-lipped, but I am for right now, because quite frankly, I don't know if I'm going to publish it under my name. I may publish it under a nom de plume, if you will. And so that's exciting. But I transitioned because I was writing this really crazy kind of sexual crime thriller, and then I had this other idea that popped into my head, and it kept knocking on the door saying I'm not going to be ignored. So I had to switch gears right quick, and it's been really fun to actually endeavor within that material. But that's what's cranking out right now, and I got a couple of television shows that were written and are out in the world, and maybe somebody will take a little gander at that. Who knows?
That's right. and heck, your career's obviously taking off. You've made it on the Cocktails with Cav show. So I mean, there's nothing. You can retire next week, maybe. Yes. Oh, well, I tell you what, Ashley, everybody, by all means, I hope you've had as much fun getting to know Ashley Erwin as I have. It's just phenomenal writer. Please, by all means, go check out Grip Black Blood. It's available on Amazon, and also you'll have links to other work that she mentioned on her website, ashleyrwin.com. with a hyphen, right? With a
Yes.
hyphen, yeah. Make sure I
Yes.
get that right. But all the links will be in the description of the show, as well as the comments on X, obviously, so they don't get throttled. But but they'll be there for you as well. But yeah, did we miss anything, Ashley? By all means, I tell you what, I just was so happy. I know I said it earlier in the show, but just thrilled to have you on as a guest.
No, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, if anybody's interested to parlay with the work, all the links to every short story that I've ever written is on the website, and links to the book. And stay tuned, because that's usually where I keep people abreast as to when I'm going to do a Nora at the Bar reading. And I'm looking to kind of get back out there again. I want to read in places I haven't read before. So I want to read in New York, and I want to read in Chicago, and Texas, because I think that would be fun.
Well, you'll be close enough in Texas to jawn on over to New Orleans and and give us We got plenty of bars to choose from.
Oh, yes. Oh. Bar at the bar? No.
We very rarely. It's a lot of our, but I'd like to start one now, obviously, get one down here going, because huge fan of the genre. But
sure.
And we have one of the oldest bars in America that you can sit by the fireplace and.
I've been there.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So, well, you make sure you put us on your schedule then, ma'am.
I shall.
All right. Well, Ashley, ladies and gentlemen, by all means, please go check out Ashley at ashley-erwin.com. And that's right. And get your butt over to Amazon and check out Grit Black Blood, a novel, or you can just flash the QR code right there. I'll take you straight to it. Ashley, my friend, thanks so much for taking the time to come on the show and tell us all about what you have going on lately.
Thank you, kind sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All right. Cheers from New Orleans and Los Angeles.
Cheers.